I used to babysit for a family who lived a ways out of town. They had a beautiful house, a couple of great kids, and a really big yard. Beyond the yard, there were tons of trees. It was just very, very beautiful. And for the most part, it was pretty peaceful and very serene. There were two kids, a boy and a girl. They were both sweet and well behaved. I had babysat for them for about 2 years when this happened. On the night it happened, nothing out of the ordinary happened at first. I came, the parents gave me money for their pizza, and let me know when they expected to be back. It would be really late, near 4 o'clock in the morning, but it wasn't unusual for them. They liked to go to parties that went really late into the night. We had our pizza, watched some light TV, and I sent them to bed. It was around 11 when I started hearing walking noises coming from upstairs. It was weird because the two kids had an iron bladder. They never got up to use the bathroom. I heard some footsteps for a couple of moments and then it went quiet again. I figured maybe the kids just got up for a minute or two. Then about 10 minutes after, I heard the footsteps again. This time it was coming down the steps. I noticed the young girl I was babysitting for coming into the room. She was rubbing her eyes and she ran up to me. She told me that some man had looked into her room from the hallway. I was only mildly concerned. I mean, as a babysitter, it was something that I would have to check out. But mainly, I thought it was just simply a girl scared of shadows or has had a bad dream. I checked out the entire house, and of course, there was no one in the house at all. However, even after I confirmed this, she was still too scared to go back into her room and sleep by herself. So I went ahead and let her curl up next to me on the couch and go to sleep. About 10 minutes after I had done checked the house for everything, I heard this loud and blood-curdling human scream come from outside the house. The boy came running down the stairs shortly after. I heard him sit on the couch with his sister, and I went to check it out. I was scared as I went outside, but I had to make sure the kids were safe. I didn't think that I could call the police just because I heard one scream, so I had the porch lights on and I walked around to the side of the porch. While I was staring into the trees, I once again heard a similar scream as the last one. It was coming out from the trees on the left side of the house. I could feel the hair standing up on the back of my neck. I was debating whether or not I should check out further what was going on outside or go back in the house. However, while I was thinking about it, I heard another scream coming from the same area. That was enough for me. I ran in the house and told the son to call the police and then his parents. I told him I was going to check all the rooms and make sure the house was secure. I gave him a baseball bat and grabbed a knife without letting the kids see it. The first room I checked was the parents' room, and I was horrified to find the window not only open, but the screen removed. I closed and locked the window before I heard a fourth scream. I did my best to secure the house. However, I didn't want to spend too much time away from the kids. I got back to the kids. They had both called their parents and the police. Both were on their way. We curled up on the couch until they arrived. We didn't hear any more screams. The police didn't find anyone, but I knew the house was broken into. It could have just been a prank to scare us, but if it was, it worked. I used to babysit for a family that had two boys, one 10 and one 12. They played a lot outside in the backyard. They even had a full tree house that they spent a lot of their time in. A lot of times when I was over there babysitting, they spent a lot of time just playing in the treehouse. There were even times when their parents would let them camp out in the treehouse. They had done it a few times when I had babysit for them before, normally in the summer. In those instances, I only had to go and check up on them every so often. This took place during a pretty hot summer. The kids were all excited about sleeping out in the treehouse. Their mama told me it would be alright. I just had to go check on them every hour. I tended to always do this, including after they had gone to sleep. So I went back and forth several times. The boys were staying up late, reading comics and just being boys. When I went out to check on them around 11 o'clock, they had finally fallen asleep. I turned off the light they had and went back to the house. On the way back, though, I paused for just a moment. There was a light on in the second story of the house, but that was unusual on its own. But I was walking back towards the house, I saw the light turn off. This wasn't just the case of my eyes playing tricks on me either. I mean, yeah, the light flipped off immediately after I got to the bottom of the tree, but I knew what I had seen. I wasn't sure what to do at first, but I took out my cell phone and I called 911. After that, I climbed back up into the treehouse. I turned on the light quickly. I woke up the boys. I didn't tell them what I had seen, but only that they would hear police sirens and not to worry about it. The police arrived and I watched them from the treehouse as they went in. An officer also came over to the treehouse and indicated to us that it was okay to come down from the tree. I watched again as the cops came out of the house with the man in cuffs. They had found him hunkered down in the boys' room closet, holding a knife. I don't know if he was waiting for them. I don't know if he was waiting for me. I don't know if he was just there to rob the place. But I'm glad I saw that light switch off. When I was a teenager, way back before the internet and cell phones, we were visiting some family, and when the adults decided to go out, I got left watching my cousins. There were 3 of them, 2 girls, age 11 and 9, and the boy, Joey, age 7. I was only 15 myself, but I generally got on well with the girls. Joey, though, he was a terror. I don't know what it was that made him that way. Maybe his parents spoiled him for being the only boy. I'm not sure. I just know he was a terror beyond any child I had ever known. He was the kind of child who would randomly run up and hit you or bite you. If you told him to do something, he wouldn't stomp his feet or pout. He'd just flat out ignore you. I've heard many people say I should have spanked him when he was in my care, but honestly, I couldn't hold him still long enough without being bitten. So being put in charge of him on this occasion didn't sit well with me. I took the advice of the oldest sister and bribed him with a video game. I had brought my Game Boy with me as it had been a long drive here, and while I didn't relish the idea of letting a little bastard play with it, I hoped it would keep him quiet and out of my hair for a while. And it did. I spent the evening watching TV and playing Barbies with the girls, and he sat quietly on the couch and destroyed monsters on my Game Boy. I couldn't have been more relieved. When it started getting late and the adults hadn't come back yet, I realized it was going to be my responsibility to put him to bed. Usually, with him being the youngest, I would have expected his bedtime to be earlier than the girls, but neither he nor they said anything as the night wore on. I admit, I sort of hoped he was getting sleepy and dozed off playing, and I could have put him to bed. The girls began to get tired around 10. They were off to brush their teeth and put their PJs on. "I guess it's getting pretty late, huh?" I hinted. No response. He just kept playing the game. "Aren't you getting tired? You can play some more in the morning. It'll still be here." Joey glared up at me from the game. "I'm playing now," he said, and immediately looked back at the screen. Because I didn't want him to waste the batteries, I removed them prior to letting him play, and he was running off the power cord now. Out of pure frustration, I grabbed the plug and pulled it from the wall. The electronic noises ceased immediately, and he just stared at the screen for a moment. Then, without a word, he stood up, sat the Game Boy on the couch, and left the room. I heard the bathroom sink come on and relaxed. He had gone to brush his teeth. Within 20 minutes, he and the girls were in bed, and I felt free to do what I liked. I plugged the Game Boy back in and started up one of my favorite games. Around 11:30, I heard a car pull in the driveway. It was about time they got home. Damn adults going out drinking and leaving me with the kids. Then, to my surprise, I heard a knock at the door. I paused my game and went to answer it. I peeked out the window first and saw a police officer. I went cold. Thoughts began racing through my mind of what could have happened to my parents. Shaking, I opened the door. To my surprise, out of the back seat of the car, I saw another officer pull Joey. He was handcuffed, which I thought was odd for a kid, but he was also covered in blood. He even had it in his mouth. The officer asked who I was, and I explained. He asked lots of questions, and I began piecing the story together. Joey didn't go to bed. He had gone down the street to the neighbor's house. A boy he knew had a game system. He had knocked on the boy's window, and when the boy had opened the door, Joey just stabbed him with his pocket knife. The neighbor boy had screamed, which woke his parents, who found Joey sitting on the floor playing the Game Boy while their son lay there bleeding. When they came near him, Joey had bitten them, and when the police came, he'd bitten them too. The police stayed and waited for the adults to get home, which wasn't much longer. My mom and I stayed with the girls while Joey's parents went to the police station. I always wonder why Joey went down the road to attack another kid. Why didn't he come after me? He knew I had a Game Boy. I was vulnerable, lying there on the couch. There were no parents to come to the rescue. Maybe it was because we were cousins, or maybe in his own twisted mind he was being nice because I'd let him play with my Game Boy in the first place. I don't see that side of the family much anymore. Last I heard, he was married and a great father to his kids. I just hope his wife is never foolish enough to shut off the PlayStation when he's not ready to stop playing.